Podcast City Network.
What is up? What is up? It is episode 154 of the Nest Podcast. Welcome in to everybody out there. My name is Brandon. Joining me as always is my co-host, Zach. Zach, we're 2 episodes away from our 3-year anniversary. Spectacular. Can you believe it? 3 years already.
It's hard to believe. It seems like we started just yesterday. But I mean, honestly, if you go back and take a look at our old stuff, the show has really grown over the years. I mean, we've got all this cool stuff on StreamYard. I mean, it used to just be our walls, and it's grown for sure. I think we've gotten better as the years have gone on. So I can't believe we're almost at 3 years.
No, absolutely. And I think, on a week-to-week basis, we're duking it out with some of the heavyweights out there, the worldwide leader in sports and some of those other well-known sports brands. I feel like we put up quality content that rivals any one of those, and we usually have takes well before some of those even come out with their takes. So
yep,
it is what it is. Our longtime listeners have supported us and said, like, hey, I've seen the guys on the Nest already talk about this. So that's always a nice little momentum builder for us whenever we see other people out there telling us, like, hey, we know that you guys said it first.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where maybe it's just, everyone kind of comes to the same conclusions on certain things, but we're just 2 dudes who like sports and get together once a week and talk about what we think. The guys on ESPN and all that stuff are paid to do this, and they do research and they have interns and all kinds of stuff like that. So you would think that they would have a little bit more ammo than we do, yet here we are calling stuff before other people do. So there's got to be something to that.
Yeah, like you said, they have a staff of people that are out there gathering their info for them. We just basically see what we see on Twitter, and we come on here and talk about it.
Right.
We're not insiders. We're not, breaking news like Ian Rappaport or any of those guys. But I tell you, as far as being an opinionist, we're right up there with the cream of the crop.
That's right.
Space Jam. Space Jam it's out now. The New Legacy, I believe, is what it's called, and that's the Space Jam with LeBron James starring alongside of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all the crazy tunes that they have there. A lot of people are saying that it's basically a huge commercial for Warner Brothers, basically telling people like, hey, we exist as a company too. It's not just Marvel out there. So maybe that had a little something to do with it, but I think maybe they're also trying to revamp this franchise now with LeBron, get some of these other young NBA talent in there, get them acting, get their face out there, get their names more well known. And, we were talking before we came online, it's gunned at being a kid's thing. They want to win over the children. And if they can win over the kids and get the kids talking about like, oh, this basketball player's in this movie and stuff like that, then they're going to want to watch that basketball player play the game of basketball. So I think it's pretty interesting because I didn't really draw that conclusion that this new Space Jam was going to speak to the younger generations, and it's not intended for me.
Mm-hmm.
My Space Jam was with Michael Jordan back in the day. This is the kids' Space Jam now, and it really dawned on me whenever we drove up to a drive-through of a fast food restaurant, and my son started screaming out of the back of the car, oh, they've got Space Jam toys here. This is awesome. I can't wait to get a Space Jam toy. I didn't even know he knew what Space Jam was. But here he is excited to see the Space Jam logo on the side of this fast food restaurant. and he knew what he was getting whenever he got his kids meal. So he was stoked on it. He's excited for Space Jam: A New Legacy. I tried letting him watch the original Space Jam, but he wasn't having it. I don't know what he knows that's different about them, because Bugs and Daffy and all those characters are still there, obviously. So I don't know what he realizes is different, but he's like, no, this isn't the right one. So, but
That's funny.
you know, and we were talking a little bit about the Rotten Tomatoes reviews and all that stuff, and neither one of them really got astronomical ratings. They're not going to be best of all time type movies, but for the adults that are out there arguing which Space Jam is better as if it defines the basketball player's legacy, that's a weird look, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what they are. They are marketed towards kids. They get kids interested in basketball, and you connect the two worlds by something that the kids can relate to, aka the Looney Tunes characters. Now, in today's day and age, I don't know if that really translates as well as it did when we were kids, but at least they're cartoon characters, and they understand, okay, that's a cartoon. They're funny. They do dumb stuff, and they say funny stuff. So they kind of get that connection. But that's basically all this is, at least in my opinion. This is, like you said, this is not going to be some blockbuster, the next Oscar winning movie. This is just a kid's movie that's going to get some kids interested in the sport. Maybe. I think a lot of people obviously know who LeBron James is, much like a lot of people knew who Michael Jordan was. So it's easy to just put the big face of the NBA on a movie like that. And then kids are going to watch it. Kids are going to have fun with it. And maybe it'll make some basketball fans out of some kids. So I think that's what this is ultimately. And like you said, this one is not for us. I mean, if you watch it and enjoy it, sure, but this is not targeted to our generation and people that are, not children.
Right. I think LeBron James, if I'm not mistaken, actually has some financial stock in the movie as well. Like he might be tagged on as one of the executive producers or whatever. So he put some of his own money out there to make this movie. Some are saying it's because he wanted to try to buy a piece of Michael Jordan's legacy by keeping the Space Jam theme going on. I'm not saying that necessarily. I just think that he's trying to expand that portion of things. And I think he's setting himself up to be a Hollywood icon when he's done playing basketball. He's going to take over that LA Kobe role that he was fulfilling for so many years. And it's going to be LA LeBron. He's going to be in movies. He's going to be, on the red carpets and stuff like that. And this is just his first step. I think he turns the Space Jam thing into a whole new legacy, like the movie suggests. I think he's going to have a bunch of different movies come out that are Space Jam. I already mentioned that fast food restaurants have jumped on there, and they've got toys and all that stuff. I guarantee they're going to be hot sellers this holiday season at Walmart and Target and places like that. Space Jam's going to take over, and I think that they'll probably have several sequel movies come out in the next couple years that have different NBA stars being featured doing their thing.
Oh yeah, for sure, and that makes a lot of sense. If you've ever really kind of paid attention to LeBron's main overall goals, he's bigger than basketball, and I think he's said that before. Obviously, he started a school in Ohio, and yep. I think he's really trying to build like this large empire, if you will. And it just so happens to be that he's super good at basketball, so that's why he kind of put himself in the limelight. And obviously, you can make millions and millions of dollars doing that. So I think this is like the foundation for his whatever his big end goal is of having some sort of crazy empire of what seems to be movies. And I'm sure he's going to do a lot of philanthropy stuff because he's obviously real big into that. If you pay attention to him on Twitter, but for him to move to LA, and he's now said that he wants to retire as a Laker, it makes perfect sense that he's going to be that next, in the limelight after he's retired type guy. He's a big into fashion. He's big into, social justice stuff. So he's all over basically people's feeds. And I think once he retires, he's going to have plenty of stuff to do if he stays in LA and does kind of this stuff. So it makes perfect sense.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. I think he's definitely set himself up to be in that role. He's one of the most recognizable sports icons on the planet, so it just makes sense for him to continue that on. Something else that's coming up, Zach, is NFL training camps are upon us. Some of the teams are going to be reporting by the end of this week. Others have until, I believe, next Tuesday to report, and then all of the NFL teams will be in training camp. So you know what that means? It's almost NFL season already.
Yeah.
And that of course means fantasy football season is upon us. And we are going to be doing a special Saturday night episode every Saturday night during the football season to help out with fantasy football and to help you guys out there that may struggle with draft picks, may struggle with who to put in your lineups each week, how to find that ideal guy on the waiver wire. Every Saturday night, we're going to be helping you from one champion to a future champion. We hope that our advice and our tips will be able to help you out. And we hope that it'll, be something fun where you guys can interact and talk to us and have a good time talking about fantasy football. Zach, I'm pumped for Champ to Champ.
Oh yeah. It's going to be a good time. You and I have both been fans of fantasy football for a while now. It's fun. And I think if you're one of those people that has just started, or you've been doing it for a while, but you haven't been able to put together a good squad, this is a place where you can get some info. I mean, we're not, experts, but like Brandon said, we've both won our championship in our league. So there's a little bit of something there. It's difficult to do. I mean, you got to be on top of some stuff, and it's not just draft picks and putting the right guys in the right place. Players are going to get injured, and you're going to have to find replacements. And that's really where the skill side of it comes out, because if you know who to pick up off the waiver wire, then you should be all right.
Yep. Just hold the belt up for a little bit of clout real quick. Anytime I get to show the championship, I like to pull that thing out.
I'm really glad you went with a wrestling style belt. It's just the perfect championship belt.
I tried to make it as old school WWF as possible.
Yeah,
with the eagle and the big globe and all that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people do like a standard trophy, that's like a vertical thing that you put on a shelf. But the belt is classic, and I think it's a lot funner to represent, to show off, because not everybody can have a big old belt like that.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about our league that many of our listeners may not know is we're scattered all over the place. Mm-hmm. So when somebody wins this belt gets thrown in the box and into the mail, and then arrives in a whole new city, a whole new state a couple days later. So I think so far this belt's been to Cleveland, St. Louis, it's been to Virginia, Washington, D.C., it's in Florida, it's been in Tennessee, it's been all over the place now.
Yeah, that's another cool thing is that thing travels. I mean, it's seen some parts of the country.
So. Yep. So I think it's starting to get its own prestige, like Lord Stanley's Cup. Maybe we need to start having our champions take funny pictures of them, taking shots off of the belt or whatever, and maybe this needs to grow some legs. Yep. Maybe I'll start a new tradition since I'm the one that has the belt.
That's currently. Right. There you go.
So I guess it's all on me. The pressure's all on me. But, training camps are opening up, Zach. And, of course, that means we're going to finally get some answers on what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to report to Packers training camp, or is he going to be a no-show and start eating all those fines? And then are we going to see Jordan Love as the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers this season? So many questions, not much time left to answer them.
Yeah, that's true. What I'm interested in is if and what kind of deals are out there. I can only imagine that there's at least a few teams beating down the door of the GM for the Packers trying to get a deal for Aaron Rodgers. But what I'm assuming is they're asking for too much, and they're probably banking on him showing up. Because like you said, he's going to have a bunch of fines to start paying, probably in the millions. I'm sure it's going to get up there. So I think the Packers are holding their cards close to their chest in preparation for him to just come back eventually.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like Chris Wilson here disagrees with that because he's betting that Rodgers is a no-show for training camp. So money aside, he doesn't think that's an issue. He thinks that Rodgers is going to be a no-show. Of course, Rodgers is very well off. He's been paid for several years. He's engaged or married to a Hollywood actress. So I don't think money is really an issue in the Rodgers household. But the principle of the matter is still there. He signed the contract with the Green Bay Packers to play football for X amount of time. If he decides not to play that, how much does that damage his future legacy? How much does that damage his, his status of being one of the greatest in the NFL?
That's a good question. At least in my opinion, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Simply because he's trying to find a new home. He's not really happy with what the Packers have done. And honestly, I really don't blame him. I mean, apart from Devontae Adams, who wasn't necessarily a weapon that they knew was going to be great, he hasn't had any help. I mean, they've never really given him much help. They've just kind of had players that did well, and they were lucky to have them. So I can see it from his standpoint where he wants to, finish out maybe the last 3, 4, 5 years of his career with a team that has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Because let's face it, the Packers are good, but they haven't made it back to the Super Bowl in a long time. And I really don't see them going because last year was a phenomenal year for Aaron Rodgers, and he had 2 other players on the offense basically that helped him out. And they couldn't get it done. They went pretty far, but they couldn't get it done. I don't see this going in their favor anytime soon. So I think he wants to inevitably go to a place where he can get back into the Super Bowl because like any other guy who cares about his legacy, the rings are, I think, what they ultimately care about because that's what gets you that status. Of course, he's got all the stats in the world and he's won MVPs and stuff like that, but everybody knows that rings are where the money is made.
Yeah, I believe the last time the Packers were in the Super Bowl was 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And, of course, won that with Aaron Rodgers getting his first ring. Everybody thought he was about to become the next Tom Brady and win, 5 out of his next 7 Super Bowls or whatever it was going to be, but that didn't materialize. 2009 is also the last time that the New York Yankees won a World Series. So it's been a while for both of those once great organizations.
Yeah, no kidding.
Zach, we're also going to find out some information about Deshaun Watson, I'm sure, coming out. And it sounds like some teams are still interested in potentially trading for him. Teams that maybe are now out on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, like the Denver Broncos, have been rumored as interested in Deshaun. So if they're interested, then that tells me he's at least going to be able to play this year.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I mean, unless they pull the plug on him, before preseason or something, it's looking like he's going to be able to play. And I mean, I guess they're just going to say that he hasn't had any trial to attend or anything like that. So they're just going to wait for that to happen. It'll be very interesting to see who's a buyer on Deshaun Watson. And it'll be interesting to see what the Texans get for him too, because if it were me, I wouldn't want to give up a whole lot on a guy who might be able to play 1 year for me and then potentially not play for a few years if he has to do some jail time. But yeah, he's a big talent. So maybe he'll get some prospects thrown for, or not prospects, but draft picks, I guess, maybe for the Texans. That's all I could really see giving up.
You've been thinking too much baseball with the trade deadline upon us, dealing in prospects. Deshaun's going to demand a pretty penny, even with all this stuff looming over him. But I agree with Chris. The Texans will get dirt for him right now. He has definitely damaged his trade value, his stock, if you will. And they'll try to get the best that they can for him. But I think his value has plummeted.
Yeah, for sure. This cannot be good for his longevity. I mean, even if he beats this case, I guess if he beats the case, the NFL probably won't care. We've had a lot of players with domestic stuff in their past, and they continue on to do well. But man, if all these allegations, we've got what, 22 of them. If all these allegations are legit, something has to stick, and he has to somehow force. He has to be forced to do something, because I would assume at this point, if he was just going to settle out of court, he would have done that already. So, I mean, I don't see how he could beat this unless he's got some sort of O.J. Simpson type lawyers.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe he does. Maybe he's assembled a dream team of his own, but yeah, we'll see. Well, that is one that we'll definitely be watching as the season approaches, because that is going to have major implications on fantasy as well, because you might be able to stock up and pick up Deshaun Watson late in a draft, and then if he plays, that's a steal, because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's on the field. And if you could pick him up in the 13th round of your draft, that's a ringer right there.
Yeah, it's kind of like back when Le'Veon Bell sat out and people wouldn't touch him, and then whoever ended up grabbing him probably did pretty well for themselves.
Yep. It's just you take that gamble sometimes, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. I remember I took Gronk one year because there was the rumor preseason that he was going to come out of retirement and go back to the Patriots and all that stuff. I took Gronk, and he sat on my bench for like the first 8-9 weeks of the season, until finally that day came in November where it was like, okay, this is the drop dead date. If he doesn't come back now, he's not coming back. He never came back until Tom went on to Tampa. So
yeah, until Tom called him.
Yeah, it is what it is. Speaking of Tom and the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers down there, they are still sticking around in our Elite Eight.
That's right.
In our Elite Eight. Wow, we're down to the final 8 teams to decide your favorite NFL team. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're hanging around. Brady's old team, the New England Patriots, they're still hanging around. So we've got quite a few good matchups this week. And I kind of want to, before we get into spinning the wheel and narrowing it down, I want to kind of go over the 8 teams that are remaining. And then I want you to kind of tell me which one of those 8 is the one that you're kind of rooting for to win.
Okay.
So we'll start off with the defending champs who are still hanging out here. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady and the gang coming back for one more this season, see if they can, go and get them another championship, or they're saying they want to go 17-0 and win the championship. So that we'll see what happens. We've got a team in the AFC that's also said they're trying to do that, in the Kansas City Chiefs. But what do you think about Tampa Bay?
They're not too bad. I mean, I think it'll be definitely exciting to watch and to root for them this year, because all things considered, they're probably still going to be pretty damn good this year. Tom Brady is a freak and played the entire season with a torn MCL or whatever that was. So
that's right.
By all accounts, he seems to be doing just fine at 97 years old. So I do think it'll be fun to root for them, because they're going to be winning, I would assume, a lot. That division is basically theirs to lose now, because I mean, the whole thing is up in the air with the other teams. So I would expect them to do pretty well this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll do really well. I think they have all of their starters from the Super Bowl lineup returning, which is unheard of to be able to keep everybody from a championship team. But, that's what Tom Brady has been known for his entire career, is taking lesser money. And part of the Patriot way was spreading that kind of mentality for, hey, it's the team that wins, not the player. And they definitely have a team mentality there in Tampa Bay. The number 2 seed on the NFC side of things is the Green Bay Packers. And we talked about them having a little bit of quarterback turmoil. But, hey, if you get in on the Green Bay Packers now, at least you can always be an Aaron Love guy. Or Jordan Love guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not super high on the Packers. I've never been like the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan. I think he's a bit overrated. He's not a bad player, but it's whatever. People think he's the next greatest thing, and they've thought that forever now. And he's just, I mean, maybe it's not his fault, like I said earlier, but whatever. That organization to me is they're okay. I mean, I wouldn't be super excited if they ended up being my favorite team. So,
Well, if they do end up your favorite team, you better get very excited because you're going to get the big foam cheese in the mail. You're going to get all kinds of fun stuff for the Green Bay Packers if that ends up being your squad. Staying on the NFC side, we've got the Seattle Seahawks at number 4. What do you think about them? That's Adam's favorite team, so you would have that in common with him, and they've got pretty cool color schemes.
Yeah, I dig their jerseys. They're pretty legit. I have respect for Russell Wilson. He's a damn good player, a hard worker. That organization has had great success in the past. Obviously, I think Pete Carroll is a damn good coach. He's one guy who had very good success at USC and then came up to the big leagues and had very good success with Seattle, obviously. So he knows what he's doing for sure. The only thing that kind of worries me about that team is I just don't think they have enough talent to compete. I mean, you cannot rely on solely Russell Wilson. You just can't do it. I mean, at a certain point, defenses figure him out and they start to pick him apart. And again, same as Aaron Rodgers, I don't really necessarily know if that's all his fault, but again, that's on the organization at that point for not giving them the weapons that they need. The Legion of Boom was awesome, but we're nowhere near that type of team at this point. So it wouldn't be a bad one. I wouldn't be too upset about that.
And if I'm not mistaken, Seattle was your pick for a city that you would like to travel to.
Oh, yeah.
So that opens the door for you to see a game whenever you travel to Seattle. The last NFC team remaining is the number 5 New Orleans Saints. What do you think about the Saints? They're coming off of obviously Drew Brees retiring, so a changing of the guard there at quarterback. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, who's it going to be? Which guy are we going to see out there as the QB1? A lot of questions. They do have Alvin Kamara. They do have Michael Thomas, so some offensive juggernauts. What do you think of the Saints?
They're not a bad team, and I think they're going to go through a transition period here, obviously, without their perennial Hall of Famer quarterback. But like you said, they have some great pieces on that offense. I'm very interested to see how aggressive they are with replacing Drew Brees. Are they going to just take the lackadaisical approach and throw it up to the two boys that are maybe going to fight for it in Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, or are they going to go out and try to get somebody who's a legitimate quarterback that doesn't need, to prove themselves? They've already been proven. So we'll just have to see. If you ask me, I'm thinking they're probably just going to roll with either Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill and see what they got. They picked up Jameis Winston for a purpose, and I think they're going to try him out for sure. But I think it's going to be an exciting team to watch. They've got a hell of a great running back and best wide receivers. So I think the games will be fun, even if they don't win a whole lot. I think it'll be a fun team to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. The Taysom Hill experiment is interesting to say the least because you never know what he's going to do. And, he could be the quarterback or he could be the punt returner. And that does make for some exciting football to watch because he's everywhere and he's been pretty good at doing all those things.
Yeah, and
it's not sold on him as strictly the quarterback though, but he's a good wild card.
No, I don't think he's a legitimate quarterback, but I mean, it's pretty rare in the NFL that you have a guy so versatile as he is. I mean, there's hardly ever the utility player like you kind of have in baseball, but this guy is that. I mean, he's played tight end, he's played wide receiver, quarterback. Yep. I mean, he can do the wildcat. That's pretty interesting to see, but I think he would be better suited in a different position other than quarterback.
So out of the 4 NFC teams, which team are you kind of hoping makes it to your finals?
I'm going to say the Seahawks, I think.
Interesting.
The Bucs are going to be a good team, I think, but it's not going to last, and that's just a bandwagon team right now anyway. I don't really care about the Packers. Don't like the organization. And the Saints, I mean, they're toss of a coin for me anyway. So I think it'd be fun to root for the Seahawks and see what they can do.
Okay, well, let's take it out of your hands a little bit and put it in fate's hands because the first matchup we have the number 1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the number 5 New Orleans Saints. And I'm going to go ahead and give the wheel a nice little spin here, and we're going to see what we come up with. We've got some new questions on the board this week.
All right.
And we hit one that we had last week. So much for that. But it's Twitter followers. Let's see here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have 1 million followers.
Saints have more.
The New Orleans Saints have 1.5 million followers on Twitter. So you're right. The New Orleans Saints advance, which sounds like you weren't too sold on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers anyway. So not necessarily a bad thing that they got eliminated on that one.
No, I'm not mad about that at all. I don't think there's hardly any Saints fans that are bandwagon fans, especially at this point with Drew Brees out the door. So, yeah, that's a respectable team that I can get behind. So, definitely excited for that.
Outstanding. And let's see here. The next matchup that we have, Green Bay Packers versus the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seattle Seahawks is who you said that you kind of hoped would win.
They're probably going to put out right now.
Probably will get eliminated by something that's out of your control. Actually, you're going to get a little bit of a say because the question is if mascots fight. So this is a question that we haven't had before. So I'll kind of give a little explanation for it, even though it's pretty obvious. What you're going to do is you're going to pretend the mascot for the Seattle Seahawks and the mascot for the Green Bay Packers got in a fight.
Okay.
Which mascot would win?
Can you do me a favor and on our shared screen here, pull up a picture of both mascots? Because I can't imagine what they both look like, especially for the Packers. I mean, what is he? A giant chunk of cheese?
That's a good question. It looks like he's this cheesehead looking.
So he's basically just a football player with cheese on his head. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Basically.
Makes sense. Okay. I got that.
And then the Seahawks mascot.
Yep. So an eagle
is a Seahawk.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
So a man or a bird?
Well, I'm assuming the Seahawk is obviously a hawk, which means he's a bird of prey. So he's got some pretty damn good talons. He's got a sharp beak. And the Packer is a fat Wisconsin football player who eats a lot of cheese and what presumably I can only imagine he drinks a lot of beer.
Guys that drink a lot of beer and have a lot of cheese tend to have a lot of guns.
That's a very good point. I mean, Midwest guys like that are no slouches. Boy, that's a tough one. I don't want to be biased and just automatically go Seahawks, but I mean, birds, especially of that caliber, are not to be trifled with. I don't know. You have any thoughts?
If I'm looking at the mascots themselves, just the two characters that run out on the field during the game, I gotta think that the human-sized bird of prey would be able to defeat a human-sized man.
I think so too. And I mean, even if the guy is a little bit bigger, corn-fed, as they say for Midwestern folks, I don't think you can compete with a hawk. I really don't. I mean, those talons, especially for a human-sized bird, they're going to be large, and I think it's going to be able to mess you up.
So Seahawks sure. Advance. So next week in the Final Four, we'll have the Saints versus the Seahawks on the NFC side of things. It's a pretty exciting matchup there. I think you're going to end up with a good team out of the NFC for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about both of those.
Now we'll switch over to the AFC side of things, and we'll do the same thing. We'll talk about all four teams. Number 2 seed is the highest seed that we have over in the AFC, and that's the Buffalo Bills. How do you feel about Buffalo?
They're not a bad squad at all. I would not be upset at all about rooting for them. I mean, I love buffalo wings, and I have what I consider a pretty damn good recipe that I can share if people are wanting that. They have a great football team. They have an awesome young quarterback. They have some weapons for sure. They have a very good defense. And I mean, unless something crazy happens, I can see them being contenders for a while now. I mean, obviously the Patriots are back in it, but it's basically going to be a battle between the Patriots and the Bills for quite a long time, I think.
Yeah. I think that the Bills are going to be good. I predicted it last year. I said, hey, this is the team that's going to win the AFC East. They did that. They were just shy of making it to a Super Bowl. They couldn't get over that hump of beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. But that's a team that's primed and ready and focused, and they will be back in those big games once again. So the Bills, they are kind of an interesting one because they are coming off of an AFC East championship. So it's almost like you're getting on the bandwagon before it's officially a bandwagon.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely more so than like the Chiefs or somebody like that who have won a Super Bowl recently, and they've got people that are just jumping on that bandwagon left and right. The Bills are going to be good. Josh Allen's going to be good for years to come. He's the next guy that's going to get paid very well, which, that might ultimately be a bad thing because then they can't really spread the money out.
Yeah.
But I think they're set up now to where they'll be good for at least the next few years.
Right.
So you'd have a winning football team to watch. So yeah, not a bad one. The next highest seed in the AFC we have is a number 10 seed, and that's the Jacksonville Jags. What do you think about the Jags there in Duval?
I think obviously their most redeeming quality at the moment is the fact that they have the guy that everyone's been talking about for several years now. We'll be able to see what he can do. I hope he's everything that they've been talking about. It's going to be a huge transition for him, obviously, because he's going to be playing on a mediocre team. I mean, they're not bad, but they're definitely not great. And coming from the ACC, I mean, he tore every team up in that conference, and it's not going to be like that. He's going to be facing the best of the best. I mean, these guys are professionals. It doesn't matter if you're on a bad team or what. You're in the NFL, which means that you're cream of the crop. So this is going to be a transition for him for sure. And we've seen year after year, number one picks, especially quarterbacks, they come and go. There's a few that stick around and a few that figure it out, but they're pretty come and go. I mean, just off the top of my head, Johnny Manziel was the big one. That was a huge flop. I mean, everyone was just talking up and down about him at Texas A&M. And then he, from what I can tell, didn't really take his career seriously, thought he could just play off of his talent. And I think that kind of plagues a lot of young guys. It takes a lot to win in the NFL, and it takes more than just talent. You have to study your playbooks. You have to study tape and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, you're playing the best of the best. So hopefully Trevor Lawrence has it in him, but only time will tell.
Yeah. It would be funny to me if you, who don't live in Jacksonville, ended up cheering for the Jacksonville Jaguars where I happen to live. It would be pretty amusing to me.
I think you could get me some pretty cheap gear.
That's true. I could get you some pretty sweet Jaguar swag. They sell it in our Walmarts and our Targets and all that stuff. So yeah, I could definitely hook you up, especially if you wanted like a Jalen Ramsey jersey. They sell those things for like $3. Next up, we have the number 12 New England Patriots, which, of course, is my personal favorite team. So I'm rooting for them to advance to the finals here. We'll see what you have to think about the Patriots.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an awful team to root for either. I mean, they have one of the best coaches to ever do it. They have a potentially really good squad this year. And again, they're a team that has a young quarterback who has some potential. So it'll be exciting to watch this team this year. And of course, you and I could just rename the show the Patriots Show and just go on with that. So I'm sure
it has a nice ring to it. Yeah, and you talked about Trevor Lawrence and how he's expected to be the guy. Mac Jones is arguably in a better position than Trevor Lawrence because he has that mentor, a former NFL MVP in Cam Newton there to kind of learn from and kind of follow that example a little bit. Plus he's got Bill there. Plus he's got Josh McDaniel there. The band's back together as far as the coaching staff is concerned in New England.
Sure.
Matt Patricia's back doing his thing. So
is he? Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So
tried out the old head coach gig and it didn't work for him.
Didn't work out with him at all, but I do think that you hit the nail on the head. The Patriots have a really good upside, and Jim's a big fan of the Patriots show, by the way, Zach.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he is.
And the last AFC team we have are the 14 seed Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow and the Bengals have made it to the Elite Eight.
That's so funny. I have zero ties to Cincinnati. Never been there. So don't really care about that team at all. Though Joe Burrow is an interesting character. He had a hell of a first year until he got hurt. And he plays on a lackluster team, let's say, with some good talent. And they were able to do it for him. Obviously, that all came crashing when he got hurt. So he's basically their cornerstone of making everything happen. So we'll see what he can do coming off of this injury. But I mean, it wouldn't be an awful team to root for just because he makes it interesting. But man, other than that, they're really not super great.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, in the AFC side of things, it sounds like there are two that you would be okay with and two that you're not really that excited about. And the two that you're not really that excited about are the Bills or not the Bills, the Jags and the Bengals.
That's right.
So we'll go ahead and do them first, get them out of the way, and then we'll save the best for last.
All right.
So give the wheel a spin here, see what our criteria will be.
You want to just spin it again since we have a redo?
I don't, because I think this would be an interesting mascot battle.
Okay. That's true.
So we've got a Bengal
tiger. Those are
he's going to be a tiger, mascot. And the Jaguars is going to be obviously a jaguar.
Another cat. Another big.
Yeah. So we got basically this lion or this tiger guy, a Bengal tiger. Yeah.
Yep.
And
a jaguar if you're from England. You know, they're rather similar. Obviously, I think the tiger is a bit stronger. They're obviously known for being pretty good hunters and being stronger. I think the jaguar is maybe known for its speed more than anything. Obviously, the cheetah is the fastest cat, but I think jaguars are kind of like that fast, sleek cat that uses surprise to get its prey and stuff like that. And I think the Bengal tiger, obviously they're probably sneaky too, because that's what cats do. But I think the Bengal has a little bit more strength behind it. So if these mascots were going to fight, I think I'm going to give the early nod to the Bengal. But I'll hear anything you have to say on that.
Well, first off,
what do we got here?
First off, the Jacksonville Jags mascot is an insane party animal.
Wow.
The live viewers can see a video right now of Jackson DeVille. That's right. He has a name, and it's Jackson DeVille, and he is tethered to something that's lowering him onto the field.
Helicopter? I mean,
this guy does stunts all the time in Jacksonville without harnesses, without safety ropes. He just does it. That dude is insane, and he would by far win a fight against any NFL mascot.
You know, since you showed me that video, that is the most Florida mascot I've ever heard of. Guy who does his own stunts, doesn't use his safety equipment. That's the ultimate Florida mascot right there. And I think you've won me over. That's insane.
My buddy at work that's been keeping tabs on this little episodic thing that we've been doing will be happy to know that the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the finals.
Oh, that's funny.
Our last matchup in the Elite Eight, the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots.
This will be a very interesting one because obviously two good teams. You have your bias. We'll just see what fate brings us here.
I mean, yeah, we sure will. And, this has the potential implications for our show.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We'll see what happens, man. SEC boys, this is a new question for us. Of course, we know that the dominant conference in college football is the SEC. If you go back and look, yes, I know ACC has won some championships here and there. I do understand that. But SEC has been the powerhouse for college football. So if you have the most SEC players on your lineup, chances are your lineup is going to be a little bit stronger. So that's kind of what I went with this question. And are you ready to find out how many SEC boys are on the Buffalo Bills?
I am ready.
On the 2021 roster, as of now, there are 11 SEC players on the Buffalo Bills roster.
Interesting.
Your New England Patriots have 23 SEC players.
Nice.
So fate has put the New England Patriots in the Final Four.
Wow, that's crazy. I would never have expected that the Patriots would have that many, simply because they're always at the bottom of the draft order, and all the good players get picked before them.
Bill Belichick has a knack for getting running backs from Georgia and linemen and defensive players from Alabama.
Yeah.
That's the majority of the players on the New England Patriots are from Alabama or Georgia. They have a few maybe from Missouri, maybe a Vanderbilt player here or there, but the majority in Auburn. You'll see a few Auburn, guys like Cam or Auburn. Jared Stidham's an Auburn guy.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And that is so smart of Bill, because literally any player from Alabama, Georgia, those big SEC schools is a damn good player. And if you're going to stack your offensive line, what better way to do it than with Alabama, big, huge killers that have been just doing their thing for years, and then they just transition to the same exact thing in the same exact kind of fashion as they were in Bama, because we all know Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are buddies. I think that's a recipe for success, and that's insanely ingenious of Bill.
Yep. And Mac Jones is a Bama boy, so that's another one. All three quarterbacks are SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, how wild.
I think Brian Hoyer's the only non-SEC quarterback. So that's interesting. I just kind of put that together whenever we were talking about it. But yeah, Saban and Belichick are good friends, and they do talk about these things. And Bill wouldn't draft the players if he didn't think that they were good.
No, definitely not.
So it is what it is. And that was a good round. Now we've got down to our final four. So we've got the Patriots and the Jags in the AFC, and the Seahawks and the Saints in the NFC. So that'll be next week's matchups in the final four. We'll kind of figure out a little bit about those locations. We'll talk a little bit about the cities in general and some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Figure out which cities we like the best out of those.
Sure.
Yeah, are you excited? You're 2 weeks away from getting your very first NFL team.
Yeah, it'll be pretty wild to actually have to sit down and root for a team. I've spent so long just being a non-biased just fan of the whole sport, and whatever's on, I watch the big games, obviously Sunday Night Football and whatever's showing throughout the day on Sunday. But it'll be interesting to see a team that you follow week in and week out. So that'll be a first for me.
Yeah. Now it is difficult following a team that's out of your immediate area.
Yeah.
A lot of weeks you will have to just catch up on highlights because you can't get the game unless you pay, NFL Sunday Ticket or you stream it illegally. But it is what it is. I mean, everybody out there in the internet knows that it's available.
Yeah.
So
we'll find ways.
Yep. But it is hard. It is hard to follow a team that's out of your market, but it's so worth it whenever your team gets one of those primetime games or, like, oh, my team's on. Yes, this is going to be my week. And you just park in front of the TV and you get to watch your team go out there and do their thing. It makes that any given Sunday that much better. So I'm excited for you to have a team. And one thing that's going to be happening this year that we haven't had to deal with in years past is whenever your team, your eventual team, Zach, whenever they play on Monday Night Football, you'll have another option to listen to in terms of the broadcast.
Yeah.
Because it was announced today that Peyton and Eli Manning are going to host an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast. So you won't have to listen to, who is it, Aikman and Buck or whoever's on Monday Night Football this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's on.
I think they're the Thursday night crew.
But I mean, Peyton and Eli, that sounds awesome.
It does. It sounds amazing. I'm super pumped. Apparently, it's a 3-year deal, so this is going to be something that's happening for a while. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it has a lot of potential for comedy. Has a potential for a lot of good guests. Has a potential for it to be a very good broadcast, and I would be so to listen to somebody that's not just a fan favorite of certain teams.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what sucks about those national broadcasts is if anybody has any bias, it really kind of takes some of the fun out of it. And we get that on baseball a lot, and it's so annoying. And I love a good non-biased, just clear approach to commentating. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to break down what's happening and make it digestible for a fan of the sport. They're not there to say that the Patriots are better than the whatever, or these people are better than that. And if they can avoid all of that, they really make a much better and entertaining event. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I'm stoked for the alternate broadcast because I get sick of the main commentators. I may flip back and forth between them because sometimes they do have valuable insights, but we've discovered that the StatCast broadcast for baseball is way better than the Sunday night baseball team.
It was amazing.
It was better in the home run derby. It's been better for Sunday night baseball. So these alternate broadcasts, they're changing the game.
Yeah, for sure. And you hit the nail on the head with that MLB StatCast on ESPN too. I absolutely loved that, especially because the Yankees were playing. And Matt Vescursion and A-Rod are just up there just singing the Yankees praises no matter what's going on. And obviously the Yankees hit some homers last night. They won the game, and I can only imagine Vescursion just screaming into his mic. And
he was deep throating it, I'm sure.
Oh, God, it just gets so old. And I loved the StatCast. I mean, the little stats that they would show on random little things was super interesting. And I loved it. I was a huge fan.
Yeah, as was I. I think their insight is good, especially if you're analytical at all and you like to see the numbers and the stats and hear people discussing various stats and what different acronyms for stats even mean and how they calculate them and stuff like that. They do have a little bit of nerdy banter back and forth, but that's to be expected with a lesser known group of broadcast analysts, and they're also stat geeks.
Yeah.
They're going to have some nerdy conversation, but dude, it's better than hearing two guys just stroke the ego of specific MLB players.
Yeah, totally agree.
Anyway, so I'm excited for Peyton and Eli's little alternate broadcast, see what that has to say and do, and I'm sure it's going to be great to watch on Monday Night Football. Zach, you got to go see the Cardinals play recently, right?
I did, yeah. I got to go to Friday night's game against the Giants. We had some pretty good seats, that first, I don't know what you call that. First, what do you call that first area? Like a first deck, I guess.
Like you were down on field level.
Yeah, field level. And then obviously one of the last rows, so I wasn't right up front or anything. But it was great view. Got to watch Nolan do his thing. Obviously, unfortunately, the Cards didn't bring home a win. So that wasn't super great, but it was, again, fun to watch. Obviously, I hadn't been to a baseball game in over a year, so that was really awesome. Spent $40 on concessions, which I can talk about that for a little bit because this is something that new. At least this is what they're doing at Busch Stadium. So normally concessions are you go up, you wait in line, you get to the cashier, tell them what you want, they go get it, give it to you, you give them the money, and you move on. Well, I think because of COVID, they changed it up to they have little pretty large iPad self-serve type kiosk looking things. And you go in and you punch in on the screen whatever you want. You get it, you pay, you get a little printout of your number, and then everyone just kind of waits around for the number to be called, and then they give whatever you ordered to you. And I found it to be a god awful way to give people their stuff, because you're just sitting there constantly waiting for your stuff to get to you. And I get it. If they were doing it the other way, you'd probably just be waiting in line to get up to the cashier. But it just seemed kind of ridiculous. Like everyone's just kind of meandering around, and there's no line to wait for your food, because it's just whoever gets called first. So I did not like it. Like we spent like a good inning and a half just waiting around for the food to be brought to us. Yeah, it sucked. So not super great. I hope that kind of goes away. I'm thinking it might be staying around though, because I think that's cheaper for the stadium to not have to have somebody take people's orders and stuff. Granted, they still had people that prepared the food for you, but I don't know. I wasn't a fan at all.
Did they get your order right and all that stuff? Or
yeah they did.
Was it anything complicated, or was it just nachos and a cheeseburger?
Yeah, it was nachos, popcorn, and a water.
Okay, so it was pretty. If you mess that up, you're really screwing things up.
Yeah. So I mean, and we only went to that one concession, so I don't know if all of them are like that or what, but I wasn't a fan. I thought it was a lot better system to just wait in line to get your stuff, and then the second you pay and get your stuff, you're gone, instead of just doing it half in and half out. I wasn't a fan of it.
All right. I'll be going to my first big league game since COVID in September, but we did get to go to a Jumbo Shrimp game not long ago. So that was awesome to get back to the ballpark here in Jacksonville. And we got to saw a walk-off win when we were there. So Devin Marrero, who used to be in the Red Sox organization, now is in the Marlins organization, obviously. And he came up and delivered the game-winning walk-off single in extra innings.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to maybe go down to Memphis to catch a Redbirds game. I think they're AAA if I'm not mistaken, because I think there's a different feel to minor league baseball. I'm sure you can talk about that, but it's a lot more accessible. Obviously, it's not as expensive, and they do special nights, and they do fun little things like that. So I think it'd be fun to go down and catch one of those.
Oh yeah, I love going to minor league baseball games. For one, it's more affordable. You know, you can take your family of 4 out to a ball game for like $30.
Damn.
You know, it's pretty cheap. You know, obviously you pay a little bit extra if you get food and all that stuff, but just for tickets, you can get them for dirt cheap. Yeah. And like you said, they usually have little promotions and giveaways and contests and stuff like that. Like at the game we went to, at the end of the game, all the kids could go down and run the bases and stuff like that. So it's just something fun for the kids to do, and it gets kids excited. Like, when can we go to the baseball game again? Because they have fun. It's a little bit different than a lot of major league games who, you know, they're Major League Baseball. They take it serious. You know, they don't have the fun stuff as much, but going to a minor league game, they've got to come up with other ways to attract a crowd. And the Jumbo Shrimp have probably one of the best minor league experiences in all minor league baseball. It's pretty great. But yeah, you should definitely go see the Redbirds. Something that's always fascinating and awesome in minor league baseball is, you get to see some of the major league players come through on rehab assignments or whatever. Like if they're coming back off of an injury and they need a couple starts to kind of get, back up to game speed, you can see some of the players then. But it's always awesome when you get to see one of the best prospects in baseball. And it's kind of like you get to know them and hear about them before everybody else. When we went to the Jumbo Shrimp game not too long ago, they played against the Durham Bulls, which, of course, is featured in one of our favorite movies, Bull Durham. But Wander Franco played on the Durham Bulls before getting called up to the Tampa Bay Rays. He was the number one prospect in baseball before getting called up.
Right.
So we just missed getting to see him. He had gotten called up I think the week before we went to see him. But when I saw on the ticket stub that we were going to Jumbo Shrimp and the Durham Bulls, I was hoping that he would get the message a little bit later that he was getting called up and that he would be down in the minors, because I really wanted to see the number one prospect in baseball play. But I didn't get to. I'll have to travel to Tampa to see that.
Right.
But anyway, you got anything else you want to discuss tonight?
No, I think I'm good. I'm excited to narrow down my favorite NFL team even further next week, and obviously we're that much closer to our 3-year anniversary show, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we're getting there, man. And we talked about Champ to Champ earlier in the episode. That's going to start on July 31st with the first episode of that. That's a Saturday night. It'll be probably around 9:00 in the evening Eastern time, so a little bit later than the Nest podcast, but it'll be in plenty of time for you to be able to get your rosters set before kickoff on Sunday morning. So that's the ultimate goal of that show, is to help you win your league this year. And we're excited for that. We're excited to help out and excited to do that. Man, the Red Sox are already up 11-0 on the Toronto Blue Jays right now.
Oh boy.
They've scored more runs in this game than they scored the entire series in New York.
It's like that sometimes.
Baseball, huh?
Yep.
Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for everybody that's commented along. Please like, subscribe, whatever it is that you're doing, and share out any of our content. Anybody that's sharing it is going to be entered into a drawing to win some Nest swag on our 3-year anniversary show in 2 more weeks. And we've got quite a list going of people who are eligible to win now. And all it takes is a click of a button and you can be entered in that as well. So we appreciate everybody that's done that. We appreciate all of you for listening and watching along, and we'll see you next week. Peace.